the Daoscape Arts podcast. This is part one of a three-part podcast titled Omerta and Beyond, Free Dance Movement Meditation, recorded while sitting in Linglong Park, Beijing, China, with professional performance artist and free movement facilitator Bo SiWen. SiWen has a background in Chinese performing arts and has been delivering workshops that revolve around the Javanese Amerta free movement approach to meditative expression. This episode explores SiWen's background in dance and performing arts, her understanding and appreciation of the Omerta free movement tradition, and the challenge of remaining authentic to oneself whilst moving mindfully. So thank you, SiWen or SiWen. I don't know really, you've given me two names in the past, so I'm not sure really what I should call you. How should people refer to you?
SiWen is fine. SiWen Banana was like a nickname someone gave me.
Okay.
When I was working in the show business.
So when you meet foreigners, when you're teaching dance and things, you tell them your name is?
SiWen, SiWen.
Yeah. SiWen, okay.
Well, but most of the Chinese people call me Bobo.
Bobo?
The B-O-B-O, Bobo.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Why is that?
Bo is my family name.
Ah, I see, okay.
Yeah. So, another name, sorry about that.
That's okay. And so thank you for coming to the park today and agreeing to do this interview.
Thank you.
I'd like to, maybe you can introduce a bit of your background. So far I know you're a dance teacher, but I think what you do and your experience is much broader than that, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you come to kind of performing arts and
Okay. So actually when I was very little, I already knew I liked to dance. And when I was 5 years old, I remember I was watching a dance class by the door. I really wish I could do the same thing, but at that time my parents sent me to a painting class.
Right.
So I actually started to dance when I was already 12, which was not too early. And I started in Chinese folk dance, ethnic dance, for 3 years. And after that, I moved to ballet. And in ballet, I got lots of the knowledge of the body parts, and how to control the body, and how to form shapes and that kind of thing. But after a while, I discovered that there are too much requirement or restrictions in the genre. And I want to move more freely. So then I discovered contemporary dance. And in the next 10 years, I was mostly doing contemporary dance. And during that time, I finished my college, which had nothing to do with dance. But I think, I would really like to do this for the rest of my life and discover the connection between the body and the mind and soul. So I applied for a master program of dance therapy in the UK, and I got accepted.
Right.
Yeah, so in 2011 I went to the UK, I went to London to study dance therapy. And then I did another degree in musical theatre. That's how I got into the performance art. Yeah. For dance therapy, I think it requires maturity or mentality. So you can take care of yourself, you can understand what you are, and then you can offer your support to other people. But at that time I was still quite young and I wasn't ready for that. So after graduation of the master programs, I started to work in the show business for a few years as choreographer, as director, as actors, also as backstage technicians. So basically I did everything there.
Wow.
Yeah, and I actually spent a whole year performing on the stage in a musical. It was quite wonderful. But after that, I went straight into a state of like a depression thing. Oh. Yeah, because on the stage you have all the spotlights on you. You have stimulations. You're so joyful. You're singing and dancing happily every night, and you receive applause. But then when you come back to the real life, you realize there's nothing like that. You don't have that button.
Right.
Like, you don't push the button anymore. You don't have the stimulation anymore. And suddenly I felt like, life is so empty. What do I do? And so in that year it was quite tough. I couldn't work full time. So I only teach 1 or 2 classes in 1 week, and for the rest of the time I just stay home and read books and to rest. And try to find a new stability.
So you also have singing skills as well as dancing?
Yes. Actually, they're quite similar, because recently in my movement practice, I started to discover vocalization, the voice and the movement together. Yeah, it's sort of like a vibration thing, but we can talk about that afterwards.
So you're still doing a lot of voice work as well as movement?
Yeah, lately I start to play instruments and sing while I'm giving my workshops. Yeah, so I find that it gives atmosphere for the participants, and sometimes voice can add another layer to the movement itself, and people can feel suddenly they're opening up a new world and they're more inspired.
Are you singing using words, or it's just sound, or?
Mostly just sound. I very rarely sing with words, and the sound was also improvised. So I tune with the nature, and whatever I get from the surrounding or from the past experience or from my subconscious, I try to integrate in my body and try to make my body like an instrument and to let it naturally sound by itself. Yeah. So it's also kind of like a brain state, like a trance. I wouldn't say it's trance, but in that state you really go into a different zone. Yeah, you let things naturally happen.
Interesting.
It's quite wonderful.
Yeah, I want to ask you some more questions about that kind of condition of being a bit later. I think since we last met, you've been working in Indonesia a lot, right? Taking groups out to.
Yes.
Could you say something about that?
Yes, just in the year where when I felt quite low and depressed, I discovered a teacher from Holland. Her name is Ria Hegler, and I went to her workshop in Xiamen of China, and she took us to the beach, and it was the first time I moved in nature. I remember in that time we had a group of about 12-15 people. We were lying on the beach holding hands in a circle, and Ria asked us to just to sense the wave and the sound, to sense the surrounding and let our body tune with the nature. And at that time I really felt something different is happening on my body. I could feel like this little electricity is jumping on my skin, which is quite exciting and new. And then we practice adaptation, which is moving in the forest, and you receive what's around you, receive the texture, the shape, the quality of the nature. For example, you see a small leaf, then you imagine your whole body, the cells all become part of the leaves. And then when you see a big tree, it has a totally different texture or quality, and you move in a way like the tree. So it is not only like a cartoon-like imitation of the surrounding, but you really open up your sense to receive the nature, to adapt in the nature, like what animals do. They hide themselves in the nature so people don't find them.
And is this a formal practice, or does this come from a certain school practice, or?
Yes, this practice is actually from a person, from a teacher whose name is Suprapto Suryodharma. And actually Ria worked with Prapto, or his name can be shortened as Prapto. So Ria worked with Prapto in 90s, last century, in many countries like Mexico, Indonesia, and also America. And that's where Ria got her inspiration. So after learning with Ria in the workshop, I had lots of questions about the nature, about how to feel enlightened in the nature, how to receive the wisdom from the nature. And I asked Ria, where can I learn this? Where can I further my knowledge? And she told me you can go to find Prapto. I was like, whoa, is he still alive? And she said, yes, he is. And he's quite old, but he's still teaching. He's in Indonesia. So that's how I got inspired to go to visit him the first time. So in 2017, that was the first time I went to visit Prapto.
2017?
Yeah, it wasn't very early.
thought it was earlier than that.
Yeah, 2016 I was learning was Ria.
Right.
Yeah, and then Prapto.
Oh.
So I went to Indonesia 4 times to participate in Prapto's workshop. And slowly I discovered that my body started to change, my mentality started to change, and I didn't really want to do drama works anymore, regular works anymore. Instead, I wanted to devote myself in this movement practice and find out what's there. Yeah, to dig into the unknown. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you found. So you've been taking groups out to Indonesia.
Yes. Well, not only Indonesia, but also the UK. We went to Avebury, we went to Stroud, and also a wonderful little town called Michaelchurch on the border of Wales and England. Yeah, of course. You're from Wales. Okay.
I mean, Britain's a very small place, isn't it? Yeah, I saw you went to Avebury, right?
Avebury.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Avebury myself, actually, at university when I was doing archaeology. That was my part of my main project for my final year. Was based in Avebury. So it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah. Well, actually, I took 3 girls to Avebury, and that was my first group. Actually, to tell you that, I think I have to give you a little background information about why I started to do this. In 2018, I went to Bali to visit Prapto for my second time. I took his workshop at the beginning in the northern Bali on the beach, which is called Pedicula, and there are lots of stones laying like one by one. And then we went to Bedulu, which is in the central Bali, and there are a few temples around that area, and we mostly work in the temples. And at that time, I had a very incredible experience while I was moving with the group. I discovered something like an inner beast inside of myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this thing was awakening in the movement practice. So my movement was very animalistic at that time. I was very alert. It wasn't anything like human at all, and I was really inspired by that experience. And then afterwards, I asked Prapto, like, look, in all my life, I've been feeling this trapped beast inside of myself, and now the first time it started to show, it started to be awake. So what can I do with that? And Prapto's answer was really interesting. He said, well, you can build a temple of beast.
Temple of Beast.
Temple of Beast,
right.
Yes. So, wow, this is such a great idea. Before, my option was only to suppress it or let it go wild, but I had a third option, which is to worship the beast or give it a space to honor it. So I felt like, oh, this is such a great idea for a movement community. So that's the beginning of my movement community in Beijing.
It's called Temple of Beast?
Not exactly.
Oh, I've seen, it has some word like that, right? Garden, animal garden?
Yes, it's called animal garden because I chat with some British people and they advised me that you wouldn't call it that because it would give people different interpretations.
Yeah, it sounds like Satanism or something.
Yeah, exactly. And they told me, no, you don't want to name it that. And then as I moved in the workshop, I discovered, when the beast is taken care and it can move freely, it's not a beast anymore. It becomes like just a creature, like a curious creature. You can discover different creatures. You can say hello and make connection with different creatures, whether this is a creature inside of a human being or it's a real creature like plant, animals in the world, in the planet, because we all live on the same planet together. So that's where the name of Animal Garden came from. Right. Yes. Yes. So
this is your main. Would you say this is your main practice at the moment? This is your main approach to.
That's just the name of the community, and there are so many different approaches in the movement practice. Yeah, so I came back to Beijing and I started to offer weekly workshops for people who had dance background or people who doesn't know how to move at all. Because for the movement practice, I believe that if you have a body, the body knows how to move. The body has the wisdom how to blend in the nature and how to tune with the nature. Everyone has his or her own unique way. So together we started to explore that since beginning of 2018. And in the June of 2018, Prapto held a workshop in the UK, in April in Stroud and Michael Church. So that's how I brought people to visit him and study with him. Yeah, that was the first time.
And so, I mean, as I've researched Prapto, I've seen, and I've heard from you as well, that he was inspired to kind of invent this movement practice as a result of Buddhism and a kind of a Buddhist temple within Indonesia. Is that right?
I don't know much about that, but I kind of know that when he was young, he practiced Sumara meditation.
What meditation?
Like Sumara.
What's this?
I'm not sure what exactly it is, but I think it's associated with relaxation, like letting go and surrendering to the nature. And then he developed this practice, meditation practice, into the movement work. So I think he started to teach in the 70s of this new movement work called Omerta. Yeah, Amerta actually in the Indonesian language means springs, like waters. Or what do you call it? Streams?
Yeah, a spring?
A spring, yeah, spring water.
Right.
It's like a never-ending source of life. And I think in Indonesia they also have that kind of legend or stories about the Amerta coming from like two forces, the good force and the bad force, and together they turn the universe, and then some spring come out of. I'm not quite sure about the story, but maybe later you can search. But it's a fascinating story, like the turtles and dragons and other things. Yeah, so maybe that's where the idea came from Prapto. Yeah.
So it's a kind of way to source the kind of the liveliness and the energy of nature. Yeah,
the body, 70% of the body is water. And our whole planet is like a big energy system. And there are springs outside and there are springs inside. And while we're moving, we sort of like allow the spring to activate and let it flow in our body and let it guide us into new places and give us new insights. So in this practice, Prapto mainly suggests us to relax, make steps and make stoppings. And in those moments, you can realize where you are, realize your physical state, your mental state, and then you can make new choices. So you always know you have a crossroad, you can make this choice, you can make that choice. And your choices are depending on many, many factors, like the body shape, your mental state, your heart and intention. And it's also depending on the environment. And also there is the things that we don't see, maybe energies, maybe subconscious, they also affect how we move. So all those things, they are determining how we are making the next step. Yeah, so in this ever-changing new steps, we create this living spring inside of us.
Interesting.
In the nature,
So is that Prapto's advice, is to kind of source this spring? Does he kind of encourage you to tune into some kind of abstract sensation of that spring, or?
Yes, it can be abstract and it can also be very concrete. Like what I said already about adaptation. So you get the information from the nature and you tune with it. And also you can tune with your memory, and you can tune with your imaginations, and you can try to find the space between you and the nature, or you and your memory, you and your stories, and then try to find a relationship, like how to dialogue with the things. So when you're making dialogue with the things you have yourself, you're not completely influenced by the other things. You're still solid on the ground, and on the other hand, you're still receiving information from the object. So it means in the dialogue, you are renewing yourself. The environment is also renewing itself. So you're always flowing, and it's kind of like Tai Chi pushing the hand state, you know? So this is really fascinating for me.
So I'd like to ask you actually, because I didn't mention actually at the beginning of our recording, we're here in Linglong Park in Beijing. It has a pagoda and an old steam train here in the park, so it's a very cultural place in Beijing, it seems. And you've chosen this space here where there's a kind of almost a circle of trees and a nice kind of grassy area all around. Why did you choose this space in particular? If it was up to me, I would have maybe chosen a place that's a bit more kind of wild or asymmetric. This circle of trees is quite, it looks very much like a human being's planted them there. So I'm interested in why you thought this is like a kind of space that, I think you said to me, this is a kind of space where perhaps you would practice some of this dance practice.
Well, for me, now we're sitting in front of these 5 trees, and they form kind of like a circle in front of us in the grass. And for me, I don't know why, but they gave me a sensation of a guardian. Yeah, and when I meditate here, I feel very safe and peaceful and relaxed. And there's also some sacred geometry over there. Yeah, so you talk about Avery. In Avery, people lay, I don't know if it's people or alien or whatever, they lay those stones, giant stones on these massive circles. So it gives you a sense of sacredness, holiness, yeah, and also like myth. It has a sense of that quality. And here, I think I also get something similar, like the shape of the trees, the way they're planted, like the way they watch upon people, give us a sensation of also like a sacredness. And in Prapto's practice, he has 3 different concepts: circle, oval, and square. So circle is something between us and the God. It's like a dialogue between human and God, because circle is the most complete shape. And in this circle practice, we try to tune our body with the higher being, with the higher wisdom, the Tao, the universe, or whatever you call it. And we discover our relationship with God, whether we surrender or we rebel against it, or we're still in searching of it. Yeah. And this tree really gave me the sensation of circle, like this kind of quality.
Right.
And in an oval, Prapto calls it oval. An oval is like a dialogue between human and the nature. And the nature has the quality of cleansing, purification, in circulation. Because in nature, so we have these natural cycles every year. In 4 seasons, things die and things grow back again in the next year. So in nature, we let go of the unnecessary or like rubbish inside of our system. We let go and let the earth receive it, and then we receive new energy from the light or from the surrounding, from the trees, and we sort of like let our body be in the cycle with the nature, and in this way we purify ourselves. And this is the concept of oval. And then he has the concept of square. Square is like a garden space where people can make discussions with each other. So this is like a dialogue between people. Yeah. So you see the 3 concepts, like one is human with God, the other is human with nature, and the third one is human with human. So in the garden space, we make dialogue, we interact with our peers, we exchange ideas, and we live harmonious together with each other. Yes, like this.
So if you were to kind of approach this scene in front of us with these trees and grass, is there some specific way, you just looking at it now, you feel you'd like to interact with that from your own practice?
Oh, it has everything. Yeah, it has everything. I think it has all the 3 qualities. You can practice circle in it, the sacredness of the shape, and you can tune with God. And then this is a natural environment. There's so many trees and birds, and so pleasant. You can practice oval, you can practice letting go. And then this park is like a garden itself. There's so many people exercising. There are music. I don't know if people can hear from the microphone, but there are people doing this square dance. And also people walking, and people looking at us and asking what they're doing. So this is like a garden place, and you can find all different layers and all different qualities. So it depends on what you want to do, what you choose to do, what you pay attention to. So it's really like a mutual choice, you and the surroundings choice.
And earlier you mentioned that you come here to meditate. Also, this park is near where your family lives, right? And you enjoy coming here and just sitting. Is that a specific kind of meditation that you do?
It's just like the regular meditation. I used to came here just to sit in front of the pagoda, because the pagoda has a very stable sensation and image, like the sitting in front of you and in a very respectful way. And also it's like some sort of like anchor of the space, and meditating in front of it and imagining receiving the stability and the anchor from the pagoda, and to breathe with it feels kind of nice, even though people are running around me, and especially children asking what she's doing. But I think the pagoda was really giving me strength.
So is this a formal practice of yours? Do you do this regularly, or is it just something, as you know, you just have a certain feeling you want to go and do that and you just do it? Or what's your relationship to a meditation practice yourself?
I think there is a similarity between sitting meditation and the movement practice, because in both they require us to have the awareness of the present moment, what's going on inside, what's going on outside, what's going on in our mind, and then we breathe with it, we watch, this is like we acknowledge, and then we allow the new thing to come. The only difference is in sitting meditation, our eyes are closed and we're mostly focused in our inner world. And in the movement practice, you have the five senses, like they're very receptive with the environment. So I think in this way we're more active. It's more fun. But I don't really practice movement in this park, because in where I live, we have a small garden. It's very quiet, and they also have 10 trees around the area where I practice. So I also felt guarded and watched by those trees, and I also so I mostly do my practice there.
Well, you say it's more fun, but I mean, I guess it depends on your kind of your idea of it. Because I know you've invited me to take part in your activities before, and I get quite self-conscious about how I look and what I'm doing. Especially, of course, being a foreigner in China, you're going to be judged in a different way, I guess.
People judge for what they don't know. They don't feel familiar with something, and they start to judge it because they don't feel safe in it. But actually, to think in this way, we all have bodies, and our body move every day, regardless we ask it to do it. It just has its own way.
It's kind of body language, right?
Yes, and walking and sitting and lying on the bed, and they're all daily movements, and they are some kind of like movement practice, but we're not conscious about it. And in sitting meditation, we sit in one position. Sometimes our body can get quite stiff. Well, if you practice Taoism, it's a different story, because you want to let the qi to unblock your energies. But for me, sitting meditation sometimes can be quite hard to concentrate, and also my body can be a bit uncomfortable after a while. But in movement, you can always adjust your positions into a better place. It doesn't mean you have to perform or make a beautiful shape or present yourself to the surrounding. It's mostly about what you feel and how you want to speak with the surrounding.
And that was something I was going to ask about as well, in terms of, because we say movement, right, and free movement. As soon as you say the word dance, for example, everybody thinks that suddenly you have to be like a performing monkey, or you have to express some very special, beautiful thing to show them.
This is a very good observation.
So maybe there's some truth in that to some degree, that if it is seen as a kind of dance, and that you have an audience for it, then how do you ensure what you're presenting is kind of wholesome and inspiring, and not just, because so many people laugh about contemporary dance, and there's so many like comedy, sketches, people just running around and in like silk clothes and like jumping here and jumping there, and falling over.
It can be good contemporary dance.
You know what I mean? So
yes,
people are very cynical and very kind of they make lots of jokes about it. What's your stance on that, and what would you say to those people, and how do you kind of balance that?
Yeah. So from my understanding of this work, it's not about deliberately trying to express yourself, because it's a two-way conversation. As I said before, it's like a dialogue between you and the nature, you and God, and you and the human being. It's not like a monologue where you just express yourself. I think in most of the performances, people are trying to express some ideas. They try to describe something with their body and try to deliver some sort of emotions. But in this work, it's really not about that. It's not about you trying to speak to the audience. No matter you speak or not, your body is already speaking. So when you're sitting here, your way of posting yourself and the way you dress yourself and the way you look is already speaking. So this is the nature of yourself, it's the essence of yourself. You don't have to make extra effort on it.
Maybe a cynical person would just say, so is the performance, you could just stand there and not move? And would that be acceptable as a?
Of course, but it depends on whether you feel standing is truthful for you in that moment, because you have to be very honest with your body, and then you can discover what the body is trying to tell you and where the body wants to go. Yeah, if you force yourself to stand there with your mind, and that's another story. Like, you have to discover why you want to do that, or maybe the audience watching you make you feel very nervous or intense or paralyzed. You couldn't move anywhere. That's a different thing. But in a very idealistic state, yeah, like imagine you don't have any audience, so that's the most safe state for you, right? So your body can maybe move in a more relaxed way, and then slowly you allow it to move more freely, and then you can discover more about your pattern and how you move.
So you actually imagine you have no audience. That's a legitimate part of it, instead of kind of just.
This is the interesting thing. We always have audience. We are our own audience. So when we're moving, we are also observing ourselves. So in this way, we are being seen by ourselves, and we are projecting this state of being seen to the surrounding. So even if there's no people around us, we also have this inner eyes to watch us. And when there are people around us, no matter they're watching or not, and they can be the audience, and the nature also can be the audience. The trees and birds, they can be the audience. And how this state of being seen give you a new way of how you move your body. So when you're aware of your being seen, and maybe your movement is different from the state where you are completely not aware of being seen.
Right.
Yeah, so this is like how to stay in the common field with your self-conscious, or the conscious from the others. Yeah.
And I was going to say, when you mentioned you go on the stage and you have some stage fright, for example, I mean, I think I've come across, there's an example from a famous American comedian, I've forgotten his name. He went onto the stage to do his stand-up comedy presentation, and he had so much stage fright. He said to the audience, I've forgotten what I was going to say, and the audience laughed their head off, and he made his whole, that was his first experience, and he made his whole stand-up routine about him forgetting what he was going to say, and he's a big success, and now he's a very successful and famous comedian. With this style of movement, is that a kind of the way you should work with it, to say, okay, I've got some stage fright and I'm going to try and somehow work with that, or just be that, or embody that?
I think the most important things in everything, not only movement practice, is you have to feel safe first.
Oh.
Yeah, if the environment is making you feel very threatened, then you wouldn't perform naturally. You wouldn't do anything, because your body will be in this state of fight or fright or reactive.
But isn't that a natural state?
I would say, during practice, you can slowly find your own comfort zone. You can make peace with this nervousness. You can make peace with people, even they're laughing at you, but still, you can be okay with it. So this is like you are okay when you're in balance, and you learn to be okay when you're not in the balance. Yeah.
This is the end of Podcast 2, Part 1, Omerta and Beyond with Bo SiWen, which is continued in Part 2 of this series.